So sometimes, just like when we're adding fractions, we do not have a common denominator. And to add or subtract fractions, we always need a common denominator. And so if the denominator is different, we must find the LCD, or in other words, the least common denominator. This means we want to find the smallest expression that is divisible by each of the denominators. So there's going to be three basic steps that we're going to follow to find the LCD of rational expressions. First, we're going to factor each denominator completely. Second, we're going to list all different factors other than one that appear in any of the denominators. When the same factor appears in more than one denominator, write that factor with the highest power that appears. And then step 3, the LCD is the product of all factors listed in step 2. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So here I want to find the least common denominator of each of these. Number 1, I have 2 over x squared minus 3 over 7x. And so first step, I need to factor. Both of those denominators can't be factored anymore. And so now I'm going to be listing all of the different factors other than 1. So the first denominator, I just have x squared, which is just basically x times x. The second denominator, I have 7x. And so the LCD is going to be the product of all of these factors. But when the same factor appears in more than one denominator, I'm going to write that factor with the highest power that appears. So I see the factor x appears in both of these, so I'm just going to take the higher power. And then I see a 7 appears. And so that means that my LCD is 7x squared. Okay, let's look at this next one. So here I have 7 over 3x squared minus 6x plus x squared over x squared minus 4x plus 4. First step is I need to factor those denominators. And so when I factor this bottom one, I see a 3x is a GCF, so I can factor that out. And I'm left with x minus 2. When I factor this bottom one, I get x minus 2 times x minus 2. Well, x minus 2 times x minus 2, another way you can write that is x minus 2 squared. So the LCD is going to be the product of all of these factors. If there is a common factor, I'm going to take the higher power. So the LCD is going to be, there's a 3, there's an x, and then I see they both share x minus 2, but I'm going to take the higher power, so this is going to be x minus 2 squared. Okay, let's look at one more. So here I have 5 over 4x squared minus 16 minus 10x over 6x squared minus 24x plus 24. So first I'm going to go ahead and factor each of these. So I'm going to factor this 4x squared minus 16 first. First, I see there's a GCF of 4 that I can take out. And that leaves me with x squared minus 4. And when I factor x squared minus 4, I get 4 times x plus 2, x minus 2. So this first one has the factors of 4, x plus 2, and x minus 2. Looking at my second denominator, I see at first I can factor out a 6. And when I do that, I'm left with x squared minus 4x plus 4. And when I factor that, I get 6 times x minus 2, x minus 2, or in other words, 6 times x minus 2 squared. And so now I need to look at my least common denominator. First, this one's a little bit different because I have a 4 and then I have a 6. Well, 4, remember, that can be rewritten as 2 squared. And 6 can be written as 2 times 3. So first factor they share is 2. I'm going to take the higher power, so 2 squared. And then this next one, have a 3, so I need to multiply 3 in here. The next factor I see is x plus 2. This bottom one doesn't have an x plus 2, so I just have 1 x plus 2. And then the next one is x minus 2. And I see my bottom here, I have x minus 2 squared, and so I want to take the higher power. And so when I simplify that out, 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3, I get 12. X plus 2 and x minus 2 squared.